We are live. Texas A&M fans, thank you all for everyone who waited for us. It was a little bit of a long post-game, press conference, as Carter will be able to tell you all about. Big-time victory for Texas A&M here, coming back from 27 points down against South Carolina, putting up 28 points in the second half, 28-0 run, winning 31-30 to move to 10-0 in the season. Carter, I'm a little bit, I'm at a loss for words, about what we saw today. Can you take me through it? Just the post game reaction, how the players and coaches are feeling?
Pretty boring game, right? Man, I was almost asleep
Yeah.
after that game. No, my gosh, man. I mean, that was just like I still don't know what I just watched. 30-3 at halftime. That was the worst first half. I like one of the worst first halves for A&M. Period. Not even this year, but in past years when they were a far worse team. Like that was everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And then they respond with one of the greatest halves in recent memory for an A&M football team. And it's just a special win. You could see it on the emotion of these guys' faces after the game. I saw Mike Elko. He was bright red after that game, embracing Marcel Reed and letting out a yell like, "Let's go, man." Like he was absolutely fired up. And I don't know how Aggie fans can't be fired up after that win, which puts you in an incredible spot now. And we'll touch on that later. But that's a game to remember. And I know South Carolina is not the best team. They're 3-7. They're 1-7 in SEC play. But they have pushed good teams this year, Alabama, Missouri, and SEC games are hard to win. And A&M, they've done what they've done all season, which is finish games really strong. We saw them battle back from double-digit deficits against Notre Dame. We saw the strong finishes they had against Auburn when their defense got 3 straight 3-and-outs at the end of that game. You think about the LSU game where they score 35 unanswered points at the end of that one. The Arkansas game, they made the plays that they needed to make. It's just what this team does. And I don't know how coming off this game, it's almost like nothing can happen at this point that can let you doubt this team at this point. Like, even if they're down 80-0, you're like, well, they still could win. Who knows? Like that's how the confident this team is and how composed they are. So where even when things are going wrong, they could make up for it and win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, heading into this game here, one of the things that, I wrote about in my prediction was that A&M had outscored their opponents 120-55 in the second half since that, starting with that Mississippi State game. And you mentioned that 35-0 run against LSU. They got the touchdown at the end, but, they pretty much shut them out. It kind of mirrored what we saw today. But before we get into that second half, the epic comeback, we have to talk about what we saw in that first half. Carter, I mean, everything went wrong for Texas A&M in that first half.
The quarterback was rattled. The running game was non-existent. The offensive line was getting whipped. The receivers were dropping passes. The defense gave up 312 yards. And the kicker missed 2 field goals, including a chip shot from 24 yards. I mean, it was like literally every single player, every single position group. There was not a single player that you thought, man, what a great half. It was like burn it all to the ground and just leave the game. Just don't even come back for the second half. That's what the feeling was at halftime. And for them to come back out and respond the way they did, I mean, you saw the body language too at the end of that first half. Like it looked like, man, I don't know. And to their credit, I asked Torian York this after the game, kind of what that aftermath was at the end of the first half. He said that at the end of the South Carolina game last year, where South Carolina storms the field, they lose 44-20. It's disastrous game for A&M. He and Dalton Brooks were the first ones in the locker room after that game, and they made sure to kind of embrace their teammates after the game and said, hey, guys, like, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Torian said that at the hotel this morning, he and Dalton, they're roommates. He was telling them, hey, remember when we did that last year? That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then full circle at the end of the first half, they went up the tunnel and they greeted every A&M player before they went to the locker room and said, "Hey guys, like we can still do this. We can still do this." And that just speaks to the leadership on this team. Torian York, obviously a captain, but Dalton Brooks also a guy who's really come on over these last couple of weeks, and certainly has emerged as a big leader for this team. But you just didn't see that panic, that oh crap, like what's going on? Like they really responded, and that first drive of the second half, you want to highlight that too, because they had 4th and 12 at midfield, and they could have punted it. They could have, tried to pin them deep. They go for it, and Marcel Reed, I remember when he took off, I'm like, I don't know if he's going to make this, because there was a defender like 6 yards away from the line of scrimmage that had a direct line at him. He jukes the guy like he always does, and he gets the 16-yard gain to convert the first down. And it just speaks again to their backs were against the wall, and yet they still managed to pull it out. It just speaks to how hard it is to kill this team. I mean, you know what it reminds me of? I'm thinking of the, not to spoil anything, but Infinity War at the end when Thanos, gets that axe into the chest from Thor, and then he's like, you should have gone for the head, and it's like, oh man, that's A&M right now. You should have gone for the head, South Carolina, but they didn't, and they were able to pull it out.
Yeah, it kind of, and it's funny. I looked at my Infinity War. I've got like a little poster up there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally see what you mean there. Like, it felt like South Carolina just wasn't able to kind of put, have that nail in the coffin type drive, even with everything that they did in that first half. It still felt like if A&M just played the way that we've seen them play throughout the course of the year, and having the precedence of that LSU game where they did put up 35 points and just scored drive after drive after drive. And in other second halves that we've seen this year, the Mississippi State game too, where it just felt like if they could just get into a rhythm offensively, there was no stopping them. And that's what we saw in that second half. Marcel was dialed in. Just in terms of what you saw from, the bird's eye view up there in the press box, what did you see from Marcel? Like, did you feel like he was seeing the field a little bit better? Was he just more accurate? What was kind of the change in your opinion?
Yeah, it was a lot of things. That first half, he looked rattled. Like he had 2 picks back to back in that half. He had 2 overall. He probably could have had 5. Like there were 3 picks that were easily, they could have been secured, but they were dropped. And it seemed like he made every right decision in the second half. The protection was better. The receivers were better. The receivers didn't do him a lot of favors in that first half, dropping a lot of passes. Couldn't run the ball. So it wasn't all on Marcel in the first half. Like everything else was pretty bad, but it just seemed like everyone came together, and they did it without Mario Craver, the leading receiver on this team. You saw Ashton Bethel-Roman, who for the last 3 weeks had really ascended. He had like 5 catches for like 20 yards the first 5 games combined. These last 4, he has really stepped up as that solid number 3 that this team needed at wide receiver. And he was special today. Had the big 76-yard catch, had the 39-yard touchdown in the third quarter. A huge performance from him. But the guy that we have to highlight, too, is Isaiah Williams. A sophomore who had barely seen the field. It seemed like he was the one odd man out. He was a guy we kind of heard about this offseason, that inspired a lot of confidence about his future. But, when you have Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, Ashton Bethel-Roman, Terry Bussey, like it's hard. There's kind of an odd man out. And this was his first opportunity to really do something this season. And he made the most of it with, his 27-yard touchdown, and had another big catch in the game as well. And so you just saw a lot of different guys step up. Nate Workature is another guy who had a great game. Ran over a dude on 1 catch. So pretty awesome. Had a 14-yard touchdown. But you just saw a lot of guys step up. But with Marcel in particular, again, it just felt like he did everything right. He was accurate. He made the right decisions. He uncorked some beautiful deep balls. Even in the first half, the 43-yard strike he had to the KC Concepcion, I believe, on the in the first quarter. Like, that was a beautiful ball. Marcel Reed, it's a weird game to judge because that first half was so bad, but that second half was so dang good. And a lot of people, at halftime was like, do you bench the guy? Like, because it was that bad. But that's just what you get in Marcel Reed. As soon as you kind of think, does he have it? It is, he's had a few bad plays in a row. He turns it on and he shows you why he's been one of the better quarterbacks in the country this whole season. And so, and very impressive resilience for him having such a bad half and then responding the way that he did.
Especially like looking back, you could be like, South Carolina, they're doing it to us again. Like, it's just going to be, what it was last year, a blowout victory. Could it even be worse than 24 points? I mean, South Carolina in that game last year outscored Texas A&M 24-0 in the second half. Completely flipped around from, looking at this game here. I want to ask you because, I mainly, work on the recruiting side of things. And, I'm getting feedback from commits, and a common theme here is, I never had a doubt in them. I knew they were going to come back. Is that kind of like a testament to kind of the culture change and just the shift that you've seen with this Texas A&M football program this season, that even when they're down 27, points at halftime, they feel that resiliency that they can come back and still win?
I'm doing a big story on Tommy Moffitt here the next day or two. Met with him a couple days ago, and he's been a big catalyst in this season and the way that this team has finished. That their whole offseason mantra for strength and conditioning was finish, because that's not what they did last year, dropping to 1-4, fading in a lot of games late. And he touched on a lot of this stuff, but that's what this team has done this year. They finish games. It's been the thing that they've just been saying all offseason. And a lot of times, you see these cliches, you see these mantras, and they don't come to fruition, but A&M has really used it. And I think it's a combination of a few things. Number one, their strength of conditioning program is phenomenal under Tommy Moffitt, and they really made some big-time progress there, compared to the last regime. Now, the second piece to it is this is a veteran team with a lot of experience. They brought back their entire back seven. They brought back Cassius Howell, who you knew was going to have a big year, Albert Regis, their whole offensive line, their 4 top running backs, Marcel Reed, you name it. They brought back so many guys. They brought back their whole coaching staff. Talk about that continuity. And, Marcel Reed maybe being a little bit more comfortable in the second year under Colin Klein, and being more tailored around his skill set. So, it's a combination of a lot of things, but to me, if you were to say what makes this A&M team different, it's their ability to finish games and to not waver when things kind of go wrong.
Definitely. And look, we talked a little bit about the players and, the missed field goals, the running game not being able to be established, Marcel being off, the defense, not being able to solve the Lenore Sellers problem for what was going on 6 straight quarters dating back to the last game and going into halftime of this game. But, there are some questionable calls that were made. One of them that really stood out in the first half was kicking the field goal on 4th and 2. Having that field goal attempt, I thought that was one where A&M probably should have gone for it. We saw at the end of the game, they're right there, third and goal from the 1 yard line. It just feels like you just give it to EJ Smith two straight times and you're getting it in.
Yep.
What you kind of, were there any other plays that kind of stood out or that you'd like to highlight?
I want to highlight that one, the second one you mentioned. Elko had mentioned that was his fault, that they shouldn't have done that. And you think about that situation, what was going on in my mind was you're up 1. If you score a touchdown, go for 2. It's kind of the new analytical way of thinking of, hey, if you don't get it, you're up by 7, it's all good. If you get it, you're up by 9, the game's over, go home, right?
Yeah.
And I was on my way down the field. I caught it on the screen, and I was like, did that really just happen? Because it'd be one thing if this was Le'Veon Moss, your senior running back, but you're empowering your true – and Jamari Morrow's been great all year.
Yeah.
I don't want to take – but – to put him in that situation, especially when it's like an option kind of play, that was a rough play call. And had South Carolina won the game, that post game presser would have been way different than it actually was. But yeah, I think that play stands out. The 4th and 12 stands out a lot. That 76-yard pass to Ashton Bethel Roman, which set up a 14-yard touchdown to Vorkacher the next play, that was special too, because after the game, ABR said that wasn't even the route he was supposed to run. He kind of like ran into Casey Concepcion and just kind of went vertical, and then boom, he's wide open. So you think about like whether it's like the NCAA tournament where you see like a team down 25 in the second half and they like come all the way back because they make like 10 threes or whatever, whether it's a game like this, it's one of those games where it's like so many things had to go right for them to win this game. It almost had to be a perfect second half. And what's pretty remarkable is they were able to trim it to a 6-point deficit with like 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Like it took them zero time.
Yeah.
It almost felt like after they converted that 4th and 12, it was easy after that. After that, it was like, all right, touchdown, stop. This defense, you got to give them a lot of credit too. First half really struggled, gave up the 80-yard touchdown to Harbor. Sellers was running loose. A lot of big plays they gave up. The second half, I think they had 4 sacks, a bunch of TFLs. I think they gave up less than 100 yards for the whole second half. And you just kind of felt at the end, you're like, yeah, they're not, even though A&M had that stupid play at the goal line, you knew South Carolina wasn't going to score with the way this defense played. I was surprised in that short yardage situation that they dropped back to pass, and then it led to the big sack. So South Carolina, I bet they're wanting that, back. But yeah, a lot of plays in this one stand out because so much had to happen for them to win this game.
I think it really goes to show, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on this too, that, I mean, this is a national championship contending team, just because of their ability to win in different ways. They can win kind of a sluggish game against Auburn 16-10. They can win a shootout on the road against Notre Dame. They can come back from 27 points down against a team that beat them last year by 24. They can kind of win in a multitude of ways. Carter, I know next week really isn't going to tell us too much about the program. Everyone's got November 28th circled on their calendar right now, but just what are your thoughts on this A&M program?
Well, I should mention, the breaking news that came out about 45 minutes before kickoff. Great timing, by the way, for me. I think I was on my way walking over the game, but I was able to confirm that Mike Elko is expected to finalize a new 6-year contract with Texas A&M. He was currently in the second year of a deal that was a 6-year, $42 million deal. It was $7 million annually, which ranked 32nd among college football coaches. It was a very heavy incentive-laden contract. He could have made up to $3.5 million. If he won the national championship, he could have gotten a 1-year extension had they made the playoff this year. But now it'll reset with a new 6-year contract. It's yet to be finalized. It's yet to be announced as we're talking. Who knows? I haven't been able to check my phone over the last 20 minutes, but I do expect it to be go through soon. And it was a huge deal because, from what I've heard, this was in the works for a few weeks. Penn State had viewed Mike Elko as a top candidate for its opening ever since it fired James Franklin a few weeks back. And Penn State would have loved to have Mike Elko, but A&M was able, or appears to have been able, to seal that deal. I expect the news to come out here by the end of this weekend, I would think. Should bump him up quite a bit in pay. I said that he was $7 million a year. According to Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports, it should be up to about $11 million. I heard, probably top 5 in terms of annual base salary among college coaches. For for Texas A&M, what you like about it is 6 years. That's good. Like, you think about Jimbo Fisher when he got his extension, they extended him 10 years beyond that moment. That is a long commitment. And Elko, I think you've got to feel really, really good about everything, and making this extension make sense. But it also, you have to like it, because it's not like you're doing a 20-year deal and it's like, well, what's going to happen in 2034 if this team is not, whatever. So
Yeah.
have to like it. We'll see what the exact details are here soon. But for right now, it appears that it is heading toward the finish line, and I think something will be announced soon. I see that. I guess that wasn't a question for us. Sorry, I can barely read. I have like the worst vision, but I want to reiterate that Elko, after this game, I mean, the emotions were just, I don't know if they caught it on the broadcast. I had put out something on Twitter, but he was as fired up as you can get. He was redder than the freaking maroon colors that A&M has. Like, he was just fired up. And how can you not be 10-0? Should be 11-0 next week, and a big showdown at the end of the season for A&M. One other thing to mention: no SEC championship game clinch for this team. No one will be able to now clinch the SEC championship spot until Thanksgiving weekend. So no team can clinch over the next week. So it'll all come down to that final game, and man,
get your
the
popcorn
stakes will be
ready.
high. Get your popcorn ready.
Yep. Hey, very much excited for that one, and we're going to be bringing you all coverage post game for the South Carolina game, of course, and then leading up to that Texas game. Very excited about that one. A lot of implications both on and off the field, from the recruiting perspective too. That's going to be a game that recruits are going to be paying close attention to. Carter, I want to give you the floor, the platform right now, just for any parting thoughts that you have. Just want to thank you also for coming out here. I know it's tough doing those post game pressers, going down all the way to the field, doing what you do. So thank you for joining us doing this. But yeah, so what are your parting thoughts before we close out here?
Nothing much more other than a win like this, I think, could be really good for this team, in the sense that, first of all, you're going to have the belief now that, and then maybe they already had it, but anytime something bad happens early in a game now, they can point to, well, remember when we were down 30-3? We had 2 picks. We had 2 missed field goals. We had an 80-yard touchdown where Dalton Brooks misses a tackle. And it's just, remember when all that happened? They're going to be able to point to that as a lesson now, where nothing can kind of phase them now. I also think, when you are 9-0 and you've beaten Missouri by 21, you've beaten LSU by 24, you kind of get comfortable. You might get complacent. That was something Tommy Moffitt mentioned to me when I talked to him a couple days ago. He said, you know what, they're kind of relaxed in their Monday workout, their Monday session. I can't remember if it was a workout or practice, but he had said that they were kind of relaxed coming off of 3 straight road trips, and he really tried to get them going after that. And he said, they responded well after that. But when you have a start like that, 9-0, you can get a little complacent. And so I think this game just serves as a reminder of, hey, even when you play 3-7 South Carolina, who fired their offensive coordinator and fired their offensive line coach, and is Shane Beamer still going to be the coach at the end of the year? And what happened to Lenore Sellers? What in the world is going on with South Carolina? They can still beat you, just like Arkansas almost beat this team, just like Auburn almost beat this team. So it's a good reminder for this team to take every opponent seriously. And so also when these moments come in the future, they can point to it and say, hey, well, we did this, so we can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, losing my voice here, guys, but thank you all for joining, and we'll see you all later.